So I was not raised in a Christian home per se. Mom was religious in regards to, I think the way I've described her historically is she thought the Pharisees were a little light on their application of the law. And then my dad was the,
That must have been real fun.
It was just, I'm telling you, it was one of the stranger homes that you can imagine. And then my father, just had some real demons. Was abusive. And so I grew up in this home where I really got the worst of both things. I got the worst of religion and I got the worst of the world. And so it put me in this place where I really, if my mom's Jesus was where it was, I didn't want anything to do with him. And when we got to Texas, you have to play football in Texas. You don't have a lot of options. So I joked that I was on the team. I didn't play much, but I was on the team. And, we're new, and I'm second day of full pads. I'm taking off my pads, and a guy named Jeff Faircloth, who actually ended up being a really good athlete. Played college ball, never played in the pros, but played college ball. But he, back then it wasn't like it is now where it seems like there's just schools that are factories. There's been some sort of genetic evolution or something that's occurred here, but or maybe we just know more about nutrition and training. But he comes up to me and just says, "I need to tell you about Jesus. When do you want to do that?" And although I was not interested in Jesus, the courage he had in that moment was so disorienting for me. Because I joked about this even in a place I was preaching last night, that the locker room is just not a place where righteous, healthy, good things are discussed, at least not in my experience, right? They're crass and vulgar, and there's a lot of braggadocious kind of lying that occurs. And Jeff's not whispering this to me. We're in the middle of all these people, and he said, "I need to tell you about Jesus. When do you want to do that?" So I was struck by what I now know to be his freedom. Like, he just wasn't worried about what other people thought about him. He wasn't worried. He was going to tell me about Jesus. And he was going to do it. He was going to let me choose where that happened. Yeah. But we were having that conversation. And so, Jeff began to invite me to church. I began to go to church. It took a couple of years. He was so gracious because I'm quick-witted, and church to me felt like a Saturday Night Live sketch. Like, I just couldn't believe, we would sing songs like, I got joy down in my heart, deep, deep down in my heart, spell it, and then everybody would, with their body, spell the word joy. Well, I'm like worldly. I just came from the Run DMC Beastie Boy concert. And then I'm looking at it, I'm just like, this is got to be a joke. We're being filmed. But what was happening, and I didn't even realize it was happening, it's fun now to think about it, is the Lord was just drawing me. Because as much as I would mock it and as much as I would point out how dumb it was, Jeff would always come back around, "Well, do you want to come next week?" And I would always say, "Yes, can you pick me up?" The thing I remember thinking the most is how gutsy that statement was, and how disorienting it was for me, for somebody to just, because I was a little embarrassed that he asked me, but he didn't seem to be embarrassed asking. So I think it was that, like, I wanted that. Because I'm one of the guys, I'm lying about stuff I've been doing or not doing but said I was doing. I'd just been a part of this environment, and that courage was so refreshing that, like, I felt like he was free in a way I wasn't free. And so it's funny that it was really his boldness that made me begin to consider some things. And then he was the one that helped me kind of understand what the gospel is versus what it's not. And look, I appreciate your mom, but this is what Jesus is actually doing in that verse. And he just became a guy that would give me books, and I've been an avid, I need to know why and how things work. I was that way since I was a little kid. I took apart our lawnmower, got beat for not putting it back together right. But I just need to know how it works. How does this work? And so Jeff was super gracious and going, "Why don't you read this? Here's Max Lucado's Applause of Heaven. Here's, I don't think any of the kind of big apologetic books were out at that point. No wonder they used Cullen Carpenter. He was just giving me all these books that I would just devour, and then I'd write questions and come back, and he would say he didn't know when he didn't know. Like, I never felt, bulled by him, or it's like, gosh, that's a great question. I have no idea.
Wow.
And so that's how.
That's pretty awesome.
Being terrible at football is how I became a Christian.